Alright, Ash, John, we finally have our Pokemon Gen 8, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and yeah, this Direct was short, to the point, and entirely focused on this game. Not really any teasers, not really any history lessons, it just got right to it, and we got a nice minute-long gameplay trailer from it before we got introduced to our 3 new starters. So right off the bat, how are you guys liking the look of Pokemon Sword and Shield?
This game looks really pretty. Obviously it's based off previous games like Let's Go and Gen 7. There isn't a giant jump, but just the visual fidelity looks so good. Like, there's so much going on in just one scene, and I love the colours. I thought maybe the 3DS games were a little bit muted in their colour palette, but this one's just so vibrant.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. Like, I don't think the region itself, it doesn't leave as much of a crazy impression upon first glance, but when you start really looking into the details, and like you mentioned, John, the colors are really, just everything's bursting in a way that it didn't in Gen 7, and so maybe the region itself isn't quite as much, whoa, that's crazy new, but then you really start getting into it and looking at it, and it really kind of starts coming out just how beautiful this region is and what the possibilities here are. So yeah, it's not a huge jump necessarily, but I'm liking the overall look. And again, the color palette's really nice.
It's kind of what you would imagine from a Pokemon on consoles. I mean, it is very traditional in that fact, which I expected. I did not expect a huge leap forward. We talked about the whole idea of controllable camera behind the back, hoping for that kind of thing. That is definitely not the case here. This is very much just, here's the angle, here's what we want to show you. It's, linear as far as what path you can go, but the paths are pretty wide and whatnot. So it's just giving you those options, but it's not too much of a surprise that they don't have the fully controllable camera. These games are meant for kids, and so they don't want kids having to worry about camera control while they're playing. And even bigger than that, no Pokemon running around. These are all wild encounters in the traditional sense.
I do agree with you about the fixed camera point, but there is a part in the trailer where the camera is panning around the player, and it shows that in a few areas, so I do wonder if maybe there's some kind of toggle. And that could just be just for the trailer, but maybe there is a possibility that we can switch between both fixed and controllable for those who just want to have a more dynamic camera.
Well, and I was mentioning in our Gen 8 reveal and predictions and wants discussion that I was hoping for a more behind-the-back kind of third-person view camera as opposed to simply having this overhead view that we have traditionally. And it's hard to say exactly, but there's only one part in the trailer that has a strictly overhead view that I remember, and that was the snowy region area. So it could be that maybe we're going to get a slightly more, behind-the-back camera like I've been wanting, because, those few times where that does happen in X and Y and Sun and Moon, the region's beautiful, and I was saying I wanted to see more of this new region from the eyes of the trainer, so maybe we're going to get some of that.
We might. I mean, they've definitely been playing with the camera angles as Pokemon has gone on, trying to make them more dynamic, more interesting, always trying to give you the best view. And we definitely see that with that one area that shows off the Nazca lines. You obviously can't go there. There's a fence, but they wanted to present this monument, if I'm guessing that's what it is, in the best way possible, so you can see it all, take a look at it, and then move on. So that's why I still think it's going to be pretty fixed, and you're not going to be able to rotate in the same way as John, even if there is a toggle. I just don't see that happening with Pokemon. They are saying they want to try new things, so I could be wrong, but it's definitely interesting to see how they're treating the camera. And as you guys said, the region itself is gorgeous. There's some really cool scenery here between the cities, between the countryside. Got a nice winter area. It all looks fantastic across the board. And even though it has those Nazca lines things, this is very obviously the rumors were true. This is based on the UK. It's. I think you said right away, John. It's like, that's just the UK flipped upside down.
Yeah, the map is literally the UK upside down. They don't have Northern Ireland though. I think Ireland's just not on this map. But it seems like we'll be travelling through what looks like England, maybe Wales, and maybe Scotland. If I had to wager, I'd say the mountainy areas are probably what they're taken from Scotland. But everything else just seems very peaceful. Those countrysides are they seem kind of
idyllic almost.
Exactly, yeah. And it just seems like a really varied region as well. They have a lot going on in here, and maybe it's not all based on the UK. I'm sure they have their own little inputs every now and then. But I love the steampunk aesthetic in their London-inspired areas too. Like they're sort of taking from not just modern England, but sort of the history of it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's much more interesting because, I'm a sucker for steampunk. I don't do it all the time, but I like it aesthetically, and seeing them put those elements in there, seeing the steam rise off certain places, it's like, okay, I'm down with this. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, it actually kind of, in a random aside, it reminds me of the third Professor Layton game, because that had kind of like a future quasi-steampunk London setting, and this totally reminds me of that, completely randomly.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. It just looks like a really fun region to be in, and it's nice to go from the super tropical aesthetic of Sun and Moon to this drastically different approach. But I am a little puzzled to how little they took from Let's Go. Like Derek touched upon earlier, how the wild encounters are literally just random now. You can't see them on the map. And I thought that was going to be like the one takeaway they would take from Let's Go, but they've just gone straight back to the 3DS style of just encountering them in the grass.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because it is, just from a convenience aspect, it's really nice to know which Pokemon you're going to go fight before you fight it, but more than that, despite the convenience aspect, it just added so much more liveliness and believability to the world, and it just really brought the world of Pokemon into its own visually in a way we'd never seen before, and I was kind of hoping they'd do that again.
Yeah, it might be with seeing this, it might be just a staple of the Let's Go series at this point, and not really be part of the main games. I've said before, Pokemon Company is very traditional when it comes to these games. They stick with that formula, and they really don't stray from it unless it's a side game, which we are definitely seeing here. Once again, we're having a situation as well where it's not like Pokemon Black and White, where it's a whole new set of Pokemon, no old ones there. There's very definitely pulling from the entire lineup. On one hand, it's kind of a bummer. On the other hand, I don't mind because, again, this is Pokemon. I've come to know what to expect when it comes to these regions and what they put out there. But I think there's a lot of potential here. I don't know about again, it kind of sucks to be going back to randoms again, but it is kind of fun to see, like, oh, there's a new Pokemon, but it's on the overworld, so I don't really know it. Like, I already have an idea what it looks like, rather than, what do I encounter next? Wow, look at this brand new Pokemon I've never seen before with a really good look at it. So I think that might be the idea there, is that they want to be able to, like, with Let's Go, we already know what the Pokemon look like. It's not a surprise, other than the fact, like, oh, it's that one. I know that one. It's, hey, here's this Pokemon, here's its name, there you go. But what do you guys think of the new trainer designs? I
really, really like them. I'm favouring the girl design a bit more than the boy, but they both look really great, and we see them in a variety of costumes too, so it's great to see that aspect from X and Y and Sun and Moon has made a great return. But yeah, they both just seem very modern. Like we haven't really seen this kind of approach to Pokemon trainers before, I don't think. And it's not just them either. Like when you get into battles, you see how expressive your opponent is as well. Like in prior games, they're either just static images or just kind of just sort of idle models. But this time they have a lot of animations going on.
Yeah, I know. I really like the way the trainers look, especially, as you said, John, the female trainer. And it's kind of funny, that's just tradition, because in my opinion, the female trainer's always been more stylish than the male trainer, just kind of throughout the series. So that seems to be the case here as well. But they both look great. But I have to say, though, I really do love the female trainer's hat.
That's a very British hat, isn't it? Having the little pommel on the top.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I agree with you guys. Once again, the girl trainer is the superior design. It's very rare that the boy trainer gets to stand out. But the cool thing here with these two is that they do seem a little bit older. It kind of reminds me of Black and White, with how those trainers seemed a lot older than previous ones. Like, they seem more like 13 rather than 10. Which I always kind of appreciate. I like seeing, I don't know, it's kind of cool to see them a little bit older going through this world. Maybe that means they'll do some different things with it or whatnot. But I think these are great designs, really match the setting, and I don't know. I'll probably go with boy. But
yeah, we also see the boy in a football kit, and he's in a football stadium. And partway through this trailer, we even see a Pokemon match taking place within a football stadium. So I'm wondering, is that whole thing, is that a gym? Or is it some kind of side thing we can go to? See, I don't think you'll be playing football in this game. That definitely looks like a Pokemon stadium. But like just what a thing to base off, the UK. Like that's one of the biggest sports in the country, and they just made a gym out of it, seemingly.
I don't know if it's a gym or if it actually is a new thing, because you don't really go to a gym and change clothes. Like you're definitely
Right.
in a jersey when you go through there. So I honestly think there could be a Pokemon soccer minigame. I would not be too surprised. Like they said, they're trying out new things, and there's usually some sort of side activity. And with as big as soccer is, it kind of would be neat to have, like, okay, this Pokemon's in this position, this Pokemon's in this position, and go. Maybe don't.
It would be cool though, like if every gym has a requirement for you to wear. Like you have to like a dress code for the gym. Like one of them's football. There's a cricket gym. I don't know what else, but like they could get really wild with that idea.
Go into a standard uniform.
I mean, I do think it's possible that we could be looking at some sort of like soccer, football based mini game here, and perhaps that'll be a running theme throughout the game. I mean, it's quite. That's the fun thing about kind of being introduced to a new region of Pokemon, is that we really don't know. I mean, to my mind, I don't think we've ever had like a major sports theme or mini game running throughout a particular generation of Pokemon, so that would be a new approach for them.
I don't know. I'm kind of imagining a simpler version of Blitzball, and just again positioning each of the Pokemon in different places, and there you go. You decide what to do here. Do you pass? Do you kick? Do you move? I don't think it'll be real time, but I don't know. I think there's something fun they can do with
Thanks
it.
a lot, Derek. Now I already don't want to play whatever this is because I hated Blitzball. So thank you for that.
I'm just imagining them like kicking a Jigglypuff or something.
See, that makes it even better.
All the round Pokemon. On the region itself, I'm surprised they didn't show any rain, because it rains a lot in the UK. We see a variety of weather. Like we see like nice sunny days. We see a snow area. But we haven't seen any sign of dynamic weather yet. Because I'm assuming in the snowy area, it's probably always going to be snowing, and like in the foggy area, it's probably always going to be foggy. So I do wonder if they'll bring that element back, or whether all these areas will just have fixed weather for themselves.
I'm going to guess they're probably going to have fixed weather. Like we always see improvements, but we never expect too many improvements.
And we don't really see any evidence one way or the other that I can tell, at least upon 2 viewings, of a day or night cycle, the inclusion or the lack thereof. And I know that was something, John, that you really wanted to see back, because as you said, it was kind of awkward playing the Let's Go games and having it always be daytime no matter where and when you are.
I have a feeling that we'll see the time of day return.
That's like a minimum expectation I have for mainline games.
Now, what we do know as well is that thanks to this sort of press release that they put out, gyms are back for the Galar region, or Galar region. And you are trying to become champion once again. So we're going, as I thought, we're going back to traditional rather than the Alola setup, which I'm kind of fine with. And hopefully they'll find some new twist to make it more interesting. Interesting from the past, like we said, those little games or perhaps. Maybe that's what this whole soccer jersey thing ties into. But yeah, gyms are back. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm kind of happy. I like the island trials in Sun and Moon, but they're not like a series mainstay that I want to just stick around. They were fine, they were fun, but I prefer like the a bit more formulaic approach they have with gyms going on.
Yeah, same here. In a structural sense, I really don't mind a return to a traditional gym format. It never really bothered me, and I thought the island trials in Alola were a fun diversion and a cool thing to try, but yeah, I have no problem with them going back to that traditional structure. The main thing for me is that I just really, and I think we all mentioned this in our hopes and wants discussion, but I just really hope we're not going back to a traditional story and nothing, and when I say story, I mean go be the best. Like, I really do want Gen 8 hopefully to harken back to Gen 5 and really give us just a story beyond, an interesting story beyond go be the best. So I'm really hoping that's still the case, but from a pure gameplay structure standpoint, I have no problem with it going back to the regular gym setup.
Unfortunately, until we get introduced to the evil team, we're really not going to know this overall plot line for that sort of thing. It's kind of up in the air, which I'm fine with for now. There's enough to analyze at this point.
True.
So, yeah, we haven't mentioned them yet, but this is kind of the biggest reveal besides the region, and that is our new starters. We got the Grass-type Grookey, the Fire-type Scorbunny, and the Water-type Sobble. And I'm sort of seeing everybody gravitate toward Score Bunny.
Score Bunny's pretty cool. I gotta say, I'm Team Sobble myself, but there isn't really... I don't dislike any of them, to be honest, but I'm not surprised that people seem to be gravitating towards Score Bunny.
Yeah, agreed. I need to see their evolutions to make a decision on which one I like the most. Because at the moment, I'm not really overwhelmingly positive on, like, any of them. They're all good, but none of them really shouted to me like, that's the one I want. So, yeah, I need a bit more time with them, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, because when they first showed the each of the starters in the trailer itself, I wasn't clicking with any of them. The designs weren't quite there for me. But as soon as I saw the artwork of them, it's like, oh, now I'm starting to love them. And I don't know why the artwork was more effective than those 3D models, but it just was in this case. The funny thing is, looking at Score Bunny and it having a Band-Aid over its nose type thing, it's like, wow, that has a total potential. I'm like, wow, that has the total potential to once again be a firefighting type. It likely won't, because they know that that's a trope at this point, but it totally could be.
I was thinking the exact same thing, and I really hope they don't go that route again. Not because I personally hate that typing or anything, just because, try something different. We've seen firefighting so much at this point.
So they have gotten away from it. We haven't had a firefighting since, I believe, Gen 5. We had 3 in a row before that.
One thing I think would be really cool, I don't think this is going to be the case, but with Sobble being able to, mask itself using water and basically become invisible or translucent, it would be really cool if its typing ended up being water and ghost. Like, I don't think that's going to be, that's going to end up being the case, but I don't think we've ever had any ghost typing for any starter before, if I remember correctly. So that could be a cool twist if that potentially happened, but again, it's not as though it's disappearing in a ghostly-like way. It's actually cloaking itself, so it's probably not a ghost type.
Well, we kind of already did get a ghost type bash with last gen, thanks to Decidueye. So obviously you didn't pick Decidueye last gen.
Clearly I didn't. I completely did not. It's funny. Yeah, I definitely did not pick Decidueye. So yeah, that tells you guys love Pokemon. I like it, but I don't know. I'm not super in on every starters typing, of course.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with all three of these. It'll be interesting to see their evolution, see how they change, see what they have the potential to become. Right now, they are just adorable. All three of them. I think it's a good mix, and I think it's cool to see them still continuing the whole Chinese zodiac thing with the fire types. So we're getting rabbit this year.
Yeah, that was actually something I wasn't aware of that they were doing until you mentioned it, which I think is really interesting that they continue to kind of stick with that theming.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, it's hard to say a lot because it is just a minute-long trailer. But I'm excited for this one. I don't know how big of a revolution it's going to be, but this is our traditional Pokemon experience on console, and that's awesome.
You're totally right, and Pokemon doesn't really need that evolution or revolution. Pokemon, it's its 23rd year anniversary today, and they've done this. They've been managing this brand for those 23 years for a reason. They haven't changed things because it works. Because they've built their entire empire on this. So I think they know what they're doing. But I'm still really into this though. Like, this region looks like nothing we've seen before. It feels so fresh. And after Let's Go, I'm so in for something like this.
No, I'm quite looking forward to it. I do think that there's going to be a general sentiment that maybe Game Freak or the Pokemon Company didn't go far enough in terms of really changing things up and surprising people. But as you said, John, they've been managing this brand for 23 years now, and despite what fans want or say they want, and that's totally valid, clearly what Pokemon Company's been doing has been working for the franchise because it's been around so long. So, even if there is some of that sentiment, I do think that, they're obviously going to handle this quite well, and I think we have a lot to look forward to. But, I can understand surface-level complaints that maybe, at first blush, they didn't do enough to really revolutionize things, or at least change things up a little. But again, we've only seen a minute of the game so far, out of context, so we really can't say too much at this point.
Yeah, and I love all the details in this trailer too. I'm not sure if this is a thing in America, but in the UK, when we're in secondary school, we have to wear like ties with our uniform. We tend to make our ties really short for some reason, like just sort of being rebellious and making our ties not the right length. There's a student trainer in this trailer who has her tie like 2 inches long, and it's so like actual reflective of what we do.
That's
in
awesome.
the
I love
UK.
that. Yeah.
That is really cool.
They've clearly done their homework.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's always really fun to see what details they pick up from each of the regions they visit. And I think, I wasn't the most excited at the prospect of a UK location, but what they've done with it, I'm curious to explore and see what they've done with the place, and go from there. And still no sign of the legendaries yet. And curious to see what those will look like and how we go from there. But so far, the Pokemon thrives off the simplicity that hides its depth, and we're still absolutely seeing that. So not a revolution, but I think we're definitely going to have something fun and special here. Maybe wrong, but for now, I'm hopeful.
It's interesting, Derek, that you bring up Legendary, because there is that one really interesting clip in the trailer of that Nazca Lines area, which, to my mind, could be depicting a Legendary or, one of the new Legendaries for the region. So, of course, that's something we'll analyze and stuff, but I just found that to be very interesting. There's
a ton of hidden details in this trailer. Like, we see a train go by at one point. So, can we travel on that train, or is that just background material? Is that like a form of fast travel? We don't know quite yet. But there's a lot to get excited over, and the more you watch over, the more you see. So this is just a great way to reveal the games, I think. And, we look back at Sun and Moon. The way they revealed those games was they gave us some concept art, and that was pretty much it. So we're pretty lucky to have what we have here.
Yeah, this is a way better reveal, in my opinion, than what they did with Alola.
Yeah, this is more of an X and Y reveal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that pretty much covers it for our discussion on the Pokemon Sword and Shield reveal. So thank you all for watching, and of course be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon, including that upcoming analysis and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.